Last week, a gunman entered a Chabad in Poway, San Diego, and opened fire on Jews who were attending shul on the last day of Pesach. A woman, Lori Kay, was killed, and several others were injured, including the shul's rabbi. This attack followed another attack taking place 6 months ago in Pittsburgh's Tree of Life Synagogue. In both cases, Jews were killed for being Jews. The final Nazi concentration camps were liberated 74 years ago. The hope was that never again would Jews need to fear for being Jews. Although we live in relative peace, and few of us have faced anti-Semitism personally, we live comfortably in Canada and wear our kippah with pride throughout the GTA. Anti-Semitism is clearly on the rise. Whether in acts of violence in San Diego and Pittsburgh, or through the spread of online hatred or anti-Israel rhetoric connected to anti-Semitism on university campuses, still we must never forget the lessons of the Shoah.
Over 6 million Jews were murdered under the Nazi regime. Decades ago, the Jewish people were victimized by the most shocking crime in human history. Throughout Europe, the Nazis, their collaborators and supporters, sought out to exterminate every Jew they could, deporting them to concentration camps, backbreaking labor, or immediate slaughter. Those that were cruelly murdered in the Holocaust must not be remembered as simple numbers, but as names. Identities that all have their own stories. The testimony of the first-hand witnesses of these horrible events remain crucial, or we must remember in today's world, so it will never happen again. Please rise for a moment of silence in memory of the lives that were lost. Please remain standing. I would now like to call upon Rabbi Bemer to recite Kemela in memory of those who were lost in the Shabbat.
אל מלא רחמים שוכן במרומים אמצא מנוחה נכונה על כנפי השכינה במעלות קדושים וטהורים כזוהר כי המזהירים את כל הנשמות של 6 מיליוני היהודים חללי השואה באירופה שנהרגו, שנשחטו, שנשרפו ושנספו על קידוש השם בידי המרצחים הגרמנים, הנאצים ועוזריהם משאר העמים. לכן בעל הרחמים יסתירם בסתר גנביו לעולמים ויצרור בצרור החיים את נשמותיהם. אדוני הוא נחלתם וגן עדן תהא מנוחתם ויעמדו לגורלם לקץ הימין ונאמר אמן.
We are honored to have us with us today Mrs. Paula Goldhar. Mrs. Goldhar grew up in Lodz, Poland. In September 1939, as the Nazis invaded Poland, Mrs. Goldhar was starting high school. Following the Nazis' invasion, her family lived in the Lodz ghetto before being deported to labor camps. She was liberated on January 16, 1945 and moved to Canada in 1948 and was married in 1950. Today, she's a proud grandmother and great-grandmother. Before we hear from Mrs. Goldhar, we will hear a brief overview reminding us of Poland's Holocaust history.
On September 1st, 1939, Hitler sent the German army to invade Poland as part of his dream of Lebensraum, or living space, for the entire German people. The Nazis operated swiftly, using blitzkrieg tactics to stun the Poles into submission, which sparked the onset of the war. Within a month, the Germans and Soviets had taken control of and divided the entire country. Poland was the Nazis' guinea pig for perfecting their ruthless methods of the final solution, the removal of all non-Aryans, particularly Jews, from German society. They resettled Jews in ghettos, forced manual labor upon them, and eventually enslaved and murdered them. Life in the ghettos was very difficult, with multiple families being crammed in tiny rooms and malnutrition and disease running rampant. The Nazis and their collaborators shut down businesses and hanged officials publicly to instill fear in the people. Over the course of 6 years, the Polish occupation resulted in the death of nearly 5.5 million people, 20% of the overall population and almost 90% of the Jewish inhabitants. The vast majority of these deaths were non-combat related. Jews were exterminated in work and death camps and were gunned down into open graves in the forests. On Yom HaShoah, we commemorate these souls to ensure that they are never forgotten. I will now call upon Mrs. Goldhar to share her story with us.
If I sit a long time, then my knees buckles.
When do you want to sit down? Do you want to sit down right now?
Yeah, I can sit down, so I have somebody
There's a
sit.
chair. They're waiting for you to sit out of respect.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay. First of all, I want to thank you all for coming to listen to my story. Last night I was at the HaShoah. We had Yom HaShoah, my whole family came with me. And it was a very good program, very moving. And that is my shul. I belong now to the HaShoah. My late husband was alive. We used to be members at Clinton Park around the corner for years. He passed away. I sold the house and I moved to Lawrence and Bethel. So I go to the HaShoah whenever I can. I used to go more often now, unfortunately I cannot walk, so it's bad. Now I'll tell you my story, my personal story. I was in 2 work camps. I was not in a death camp. In the work camps where I was, we worked for ammunition factories. They were in Poland, there were Polish factories taken over by the Germans. So we worked 12-hour shifts, 12-hour day and 12-hour night. I was the youngest of 8 children. I was 14 when the war started. So I will have to hold it. Yeah. Oh, it's okay, I can hold it. This way it's better. I was 14 years old when the war started. I was just finished grade 7 public school. There were no Jewish day schools in Poland. We went a half a day to public school and then 2 hours every day, 5 till 7, to Bais Yaakov, the girls went. Bais Yaakov, the boys went to yeshivas. I had 4 brothers, three of them learned in yeshiva in different cities. One was in Krakow, one was in Sosnowiec. My father was an Orthodox Jew. He was a Radomski Chassid. The Radomski rabbi, descendants of Tiferet Shlomo. He had his home in Sosnowiec. I remember when I was a very young girl, my father used to go for a Yom Tov, for Shavuos or for Sukkot. He used to go to the Rebbe. He left my mother with all the children and they went to the Rebbe for Yom Tov. That was the style. Our house was, I was the youngest of 8 children, so I listened to all the talk and I learned a lot. Before even the war started, I knew about anti-Semitism in Poland. We were surrounded My brothers all wore the Yiddish hats and the long coats. Sometimes we Jewish boys were beaten up. But all this was after Hitler came to power since 1933. Started the anti-Semitism was more prominent in Poland. I will tell you about when the war started. It's no use to go before because there is a lot to tell about it. The war started on a Friday. We lit the candles and somebody came running from upstairs from the fourth floor that had a radio and he said, the war started, the war started. Okay, the war started, what do? We just hoped and prayed that everything will be okay. My parents were out of town. My oldest brother got married 2 weeks before the war. So they went to the wedding. They took with them 4 children. It was hard to take 8 children. You needed to buy clothes. So they took the 4 oldest children, of course, the bosom, and 3 older children. And the war started. We were alone at home, but we were not kids anymore. We were all 2 years apart, so I was 14 or 16, 18, 20. So we managed somehow the first few days, and we lived in Lodz, in a big city. And Lodz, by the way, was not bombed at all. Not one house was hit in Lodz. The Germans just came in without the Poles they did not shoot a gun. It was unbelievable. We couldn't believe it, how easy Poland felt. The only city that held for 4 weeks was Warsaw. The Germans came marching in. We stood outside. Every apartment house in Poland had like a courtyard, and then there was a gate. You walked out and you saw the trucks moving day and night, all day. By Monday, the trucks were already marching through the city, and the Polish girls were waving to the soldiers, and the soldiers came through in trucks, but they just normal human beings. After that, about a week or 2, the SS rolled into town, and that's when the terror started. They started to grab people from the street, and we never saw them again. We lived in an apartment building with 105 apartments, units, all Jewish. Just the janitor was a Gentile, and the owner of the building, Mr. Kramer, he was a Volksdeutsch. By the way, Łódź was, we never knew that there were so many Volksdeutsch. There were German people that lived in Poland, and they spoke a perfect Polish, but as soon as the war started and the Germans came in, they all hung out the swastikas with the flags and their store windows, and we didn't realize how many German people lived in Lodz. And their kids, the Hitler Youth, marched in the streets with their beautiful outfits, and they sang songs. We never saw that, we didn't realize. The SS marched in and they started the terror. The first day which we lived 4 houses away from us, there was like a bus station, and there were 3, somebody told us there were people hanging, there is a gallows, and they hung 3 people there at the side, Jude. That was the first. Everybody was, young kids were running to see it. And then one day I was coming home from Yeshivat, and I saw a group of people standing. A man was coming home from shul, and he was holding his tallis and tefillin. And there were 2 SS men. They made a little, on the ground, they made a hole. They told him to bury it, the tallis and the tefillin. And he was covered in the hole with his feet. I still see that picture in front of my eyes. And the Gentiles, the goy, was standing and laughing. To them it was like a show. The poor man was horrified. He was so upset. He didn't know what he was doing. I came running home, crying with my mother's my mommy's shoulder. I said what I saw. I felt so sorry for that man. And things like this were happening. It came to a point where my brothers were not allowed to go. My oldest brothers, they wore like a little beard. And not allowed to go on the street because they were afraid that they would be beaten up. Because the Poles, as soon as the Germans came in, the Poles had a free hand. Now they can openly abuse the Jews. After about a month, there was signs all over in all the kiosks that Lodge is going to be incorporated into the Third Reich. They named it Litzmannstadt. It was not Lodge anymore. Everybody who wants to leave to a smaller town should leave now because it's going to be locked up and nobody will be able to leave. Since we knew that our parents were still in that shtetl, the shtetl was called Stopnica. That's where my father came from. My grandparents lived there, but they were gone by then already. So my oldest brother came back to Lodge, and he says, Father said we should all leave, pack up and go to Stopnica. So they sent me first. I was the baby. My mother cried all day long. She wanted me with her. And they took me down to the train station. They found a Jewish family that was traveling, and I went to Stopnica. Then my other sister came, but one sister decided she will not close the apartment. When we come back, we will have nowhere to go. We never knew, we never realized that we'll never come back. And she stayed in Lodge to guard our possessions, the Jewish possessions, which was like building furniture and all kinds of stuff. She said, how can she leave that? So she stayed and we never saw her, never heard from her again. So we came to Stopnica gradually, then 2-3 weeks later, my sister came, my brother, and we lived in a ghetto. So what the small status, the ghettos without walls, they could not erect walls in every little town and village. So if you were cut outside of city limits, never saw you again. My youngest brother, I say youngest from the 4 brothers, the one that was 2 years older than me, one day he went out and we never saw him again. I can still cry when I talk about him. Never came home and we don't know what happened to him. That was the first casualty in our family. The ghetto life was, in the beginning, it was hard. We came to a house which belonged to my grandmother. She had a widowed daughter living there with a little girl. And we came there, 4 or 5 people. It was crowded. My brother was engaged then to be married, and we lived in practically in the same house. So my parents decided they had to, her parents, to make a wedding. So we made a wedding condition. They went to a rabbi. We made a wedding, and they were married because they lived like too close to each other, which was forbidden in Orthodox family. So they got married in 1940, and we lived in this ghetto. Life was getting harder and harder. In the winter it was hard. We didn't have much wood to burn. We had to make a fire in a stove from scratch with coals, and the Gentiles were bringing in, the peasants were bringing in corn and wheat. People bought like a little mill, and we were going to the mill with the corn. We paid them a few cents, a few groschen, and they were making flour from it. So from the white flour, my mother baked challah. From the darker flour, we made bread. And even from the bread, we made like little pancakes of those. But that was not the hardest part. The hardest part was that we were stuck. We did nothing. We had nothing to do. There was no schooling for the children. There was a little town. There was 10,000 people, 5,000 of them were Jewish people. There was no schooling, there was no libraries, nothing was organized. And for me, as a young girl, I needed books, I needed friends, I needed something. But life went on. It was getting harder and harder, but the worst part was yet to come. 1942, what we know now of the final solution, the Germans were going, they had a plan to, of course, to murder all the Jews. They devised on a plan to build gas chambers at Auschwitz and Maidanek, which is now very well known. And so what they did systematically, they went from town to town and they took all the young people that wanted to go to work. They took them to work, and what they did to the old people, children, we did not even want to. We cannot think about it. We just did not think that far. So one morning, it was, I remember exactly when it was the day after Simchat Torah. They rolled in 3 trucks, rolled into the shtetl, and they announced a German with a uniform, with the shiny boots, on a megaphone, that the trucks are here to take young people to work. Whoever wants to go to work for the Germans, we will give you food, we'll give you lodgings, you'll have good places where to live. My father was asking us go. We didn't want to go. How could we leave 2 old parents? They were not so old. But I look back, I counted back, I always thought they were old. They were not even 60 years old then. But to me, they looked old. My father his beard was already not gray, but white. So we didn't want to go. We put up a fight, but my father was after us. Practically, my mother was holding me. She wouldn't let me go. She cried, we hugged. My father, go, you are young, you have a chance to live, go. And we went, we ran like, we did not realize, we did not think it out for sure that we would do the right thing. But we hoped somehow, against hope, that we'll survive, and they will survive. But we never walked away, we waved, and we waved to them, they waved to us. We never saw them again, they never saw us again. We traveled the whole night in the open trucks, which by now would probably be by car or a 2-hour drive with my car. A whole night, we arrived in the morning to a town called Skarżysko. Skarżysko was known in Poland for that they had ammunition factories. I did not know about it, but later on I found out that the older people knew about it. We came to Skarżysko and they set us. Everybody had a knapsack, my mother prepared. She was so good on her sewing. She prepared knapsacks for everybody. So we came, I, my sister, my 2 brothers, 4 of us went together. My oldest brother that got married stayed with his wife's family in another state next to ours. So my oldest sister died the first year of the war. She was traveling and she got sick on the way and she passed away. There was a levaya for her. That was the oldest sister. She was like a mother to me. For me, she was the one that went to buy me clothes for Passover. She was the one that looked after me. My mother was always busy cooking and baking, but I got off the track. So we came to Skarżysko. We sat around on that field. We sat around for hours. So at night on that truck, we lay down on those knapsacks or whatever my mother packed, that bread or whatever, salt, everything got crushed. So we decided, it was a nice sunny day, we'll shake out those knapsacks. As I was shaking out the crowds, a girl comes running over, a shaven head, whole, skin and bones. All I saw was black eyes. She held both hands, and she grabbed the crumbs from the knapsacks, and she put it in her mouth. We looked at each other, and we knew then that we are going to suffer hunger, because she was so hungry. And then another Guru ran over, and Gurus that were there already in the camp. I don't know how long they were there. The camp was already functioning. They put us in a barrack, 4-story bunks. There was straw on it, and the straws were full of lice. We didn't sleep awake. We took off everybody's shirt, the straw from the bunk, and we slept on the bare bunks. And we put the knapsack with whatever clothing on it. That was our pillow, and we didn't have any blankets or anything. We just laid down on the board. That's how we slept. That was our bed for almost 3 years. We slept on the bunks. You got so used to it, you know, when you have to, you get used to everything. It's amazing. I was thinking of my bed at home, the white bed with the beautiful pillows, with the quilts, with everybody forward had down-filled quilts. And here I was laying on a board. But I was lucky. I had my sister with me. So my brother Avrom, he was sent. There were 3 camps in Skarjis, 3 factories, 2 kilometers apart. And it was Werk, we call it Werk A, Werk B, Werk C. We call it in Polish Werk C. Everybody knew Werk C was like the death camp of all 3 camps. Whenever they had to shoot somebody or get rid of somebody, they sent them to Werk C. We never saw them again. So my brother Avrom, he was like a yeshiva bucher. All his life he was so pale and with such big blue eyes. He was like a learner. He was a Talmud bucher. And he carried the whole world on his shoulder. He was the one that was sent to Werk C. Because when we came over, the German Meister looked us over. If somebody was weak or skinny or pale, they sent them to Werk C. Because after 3 months, out of the 200 boys that went from Stopnica to Werk C, there were 2 or 3 left. 3 months they lasted. It was, the winter came and they were cutting. We were told by one friend of us that survived that they were cutting wood and they gave them the wood to carry on his shoulder. He walked in the snow with the clothes. He fell and they shot him. We saw him once. They brought him. They didn't have showers. They brought him once to our camp to the showers. So we waited. My brother waited to see him. And he saw him and he said he's not going to last long because he was already like a Muslim man. So he died. So our life in the camp was like that. We worked 12 hours on ammunition. We were making shells. One week nights, 1 week days. So by the time the night shift left for work and the day shift did not come home yet, whoever was left on the bunk, if somebody was sick or couldn't get up and go to work, they came in, they took them to Werk C. We never saw them again. So we watched out for each other. So I was lucky because I had my sister. If you had somebody, if you have a close sister or brother, you had a better chance of survival. After about 3 months, we were hit by the typhus epidemic. And it killed about half of the people. They took us, whoever got a high fever, they took us to, we called it the hospital. It was another barrack, and they kept us in isolation. So I had a high fever for 10 days. They didn't give you anything, just water. So I was lucky that my sister had typhus when she was a child, and apparently you only get it once in lifetime. If you had it once, you don't get it again. And she was able to have the bottles of water. The girl that looked after this hospital, the nurse, we called her the nurse, she was not a nurse. She gave her water and she said, this is for my sister, this is for my sister. And my sisters say outside it was all wooden structure, so you could hear, this is for my sister, I never got it. Anyway, 10 days you will live there with a high fever and nothing but water. They didn't give us any food because people were very sick, so they didn't want to bring in food into the room. Some people at the beginning, they were vomiting, so they did away with food, just water. So imagine laying there 10 days with just water. People around me were dying, because I remember I was laying on the bunk, I was delirious. The water was breaking, the bottle first spilled, turned over. I was looking for the water and I was touching dead limbs. People were dying, girls all around me. Half of the people that went in came out alive. After I was lucky again. After 10 days, they opened the door and they took us, the ones that were alive, they took us to the showers. We went into the showers, they shaved our heads because we were full of lice. They shaved our heads, we took off our clothes, they took the clothes and they put it next to the shower was a room with a very powerful steam where they killed the lice and the nits. At least we knew for a few days we were going to be free of the lice. The showers finished, they opened the door and they threw in our bundle of clothes. We were so anxious to cover ourselves, to get something on our back, that we didn't look for our own clothes. Everybody grabbed a dress, a skirt, whatever they put their hands on. And we dressed ourselves. We went out looking different when we came in. And they took us straight to the factory. I couldn't walk, I was so weak. Some of my sister helped me under the arm and another friend. My sister-in-law was there and her sister, so we were like a little family. And two more girls that we were very close with, so everybody wanted to have somebody close by. If you didn't have a sister, you found a girl, a friend, which you depended on her. We had two girls that we made sure they came to work. And once we lined up, there was a whistle, 7 o'clock, we went out and we stood in the line to go to work. They counted us. We had a number, they counted by the numbers. Mine was 445. At number 45, you had to raise your head like we could run away, like there was somewhere to run. Straight to the factory. I was lucky. There was this, some Polish people remained in the factory there with the mechanics. The machines were always breaking down. Some machines were out of order for weeks, so they took us on another row of machines. So that mechanic, he always talked to me. He asked me about school. I was a blonde young girl. He said, you don't look Jewish, he used to tell me. I was sure you were a Sheikh Sabbath. So he used to give me his can. Everybody had a can with a spoon. That was our main possession. He took the can and he gave it to me every day for him to wash out in the washroom. And because they were also getting us, so he always used to leave me a notes of the father. I ate it up and you did it special. And that's life went on like this in the camp. We were hungry. Hunger is a feeling that I don't wish it on my enemy. All you think about is a little bit food. You walk around listless. You don't feel like talking to anybody even. People were asking me, did you ever talk about war, how it's going? Do you ever ask the Polish people that work around you? We didn't. We couldn't. You just like a zombie. You walk around like a zombie all the time. One day I remember we came home from a night shift. the morning. So they announced there is a little work to do outside in the yard that they take us. So we, a few of us went. We found a carrot, we found a beet, it was all in the countryside. So we found something to eat, food was like the main topic on our heads, the main thing that we wanted at that time. We did not think about what happened to our parents or to the children. I have little cousins. I have a little 7-year-old twin little girls. We took to ourselves. I talked with my sister. They treat us so badly. What can they do with the old people, the children? But we did not let those thoughts too far. We couldn't think about it. We just pushed away all those thoughts. But in our hearts, we knew that they cannot survive. The summers were bearable because the sun was shining, like I wrote this manuscript, and I titled it The Sun, and the sun was always shining. Because on sunny days, I looked up at the sky, and I saw the sun. They called me the sunshine guru. I said, look, the sun is still here. Everything else is upside down. Our whole world is upside down. Our parents are gone, our brothers and sisters. And the sun still shines, the same sun that shone on us when life was normal. And everybody, the sun, look at us. But in the winter it was brutal because we stood sometimes for a half an hour. They were like the men on one side, the women, girls on the other side, to go to work. They counted until finally we marched to the work. So the barracks, the camp was built across from the factory. All we had to do was cross the road. There was guards with rifles on both sides. This is how we went to work, back and forth, back and forth. And this is summer came, winter, summer, winter. That's how life was. People were dying from malnutrition. People were dying from diseases. A lot of people did not make it out of that hospital that I came out. After the typhus came, TB, tuberculosis, which killed a lot of people. The beautiful girls that I spoke to, the next day they were gone. And suddenly they dragged them down from the lungs, skin and bones. And somehow I survived. My sister, my brother. My brother worked in it was called elektrownia in Polish. It was something with electricity. So whenever he was out in the yard, like when we changed shifts, we met each other outside in the yard. He always had a piece of bread in his pocket, a bite to give me, because he thought I would not make it. This was the life in the camp, in the factory. Now I'll tell you about liberation. I don't know how long that took, an hour? Does it matter?
A few more minutes.
Pardon?
We didn't finish with
Okay,
liberation.
yeah.
You want to finish with liberation? Like you speak,
Yeah,
you'll speak
liberation.
Yeah.
Liberation is supposed to be a happy time. Wow, you don't know if you're going to live the next hour, and then suddenly you're liberated. So what happened, liberation? The day of the liberation was January 16, 1945. We woke up in the morning and we heard bombs flying overhead, and we knew something is going on. The whistle did not come at 7 o'clock to go to work like usually. And we all got up, we stood around the walls, and we waited. We knew something is happening. Suddenly there was a whistle, maybe an hour or two later, everybody out, the whole camp. So it was about 1,000 people in the yard, because it was the night shift and the day shift, men and women from different, there was a huge compound. In fact, we were all out in the yard and they marched us. There was a huge wooden warehouse at the end of the camp where they used to stack up the shells that we were making. They used to pack them in crates, and there was a little railway. There was a small train coming, and they were taking away this merchandise. Some people worked in that unit, so it was empty. They packed us in there, the whole camp, about thousands of us. And we stood there, and about a while later, the doors opened. There was a train, a few wagons, only 3 or 4 wagons. They packed in as many people as they could, and they bolted the door from outside. We stood to the back. We didn't know, should we go forward or should we stay? Should we go on the train or should we stay? We stood in the back. Then another hour went by. The train came back. They loaded up people. We still stayed in the back, and then the train stopped coming. So by then it was freezing cold. Before, when we would pack together 1,000 people, almost it was warm. So some boys went with their elbows and they knocked out the door. They ran out to the warehouse. And there was, by the way, bombs were flying in the sky. We looked out through the cracks. The sky was red, and we knew that the Soviet army was getting here because the Poles were telling us a few days before. They told us that the Soviet army was getting closer. So they said, they came running back in, the 2 or 3 boys. Kids, we are free, we are free, we are free. The Germans are gone. They found helmets, they found boots, they found uniforms. The Germans left everything and they ran. Okay, we are free. You know what? That we didn't know how to take them. Okay, where are we going to go? It was freezing cold. We walk out and first we look for some food first. So we went into the barracks, we went down to the basement, and we looked for some food. We found carrots, beets, we ate. We just ate whatever we could. That was the first thing on our mind, just to find something to eat. And the bombs were flying overhead, and we walked around just on the street. You see, we were not in the city, we were outside the city. So where are we going to go? We don't have a home. Nobody's waiting for us. They freed us, but we don't have nowhere to go. So we walked around the whole day, back and forth, looking for food. And then the night fell, the winter, 4 o'clock, it's getting dark. Where are we going to go? We went back into the barrack to our bunk bed to sleep, to stay there. We didn't sleep. We didn't lay down, we just walked around. We stood around the walls of the barrack, everybody talking. Where are we going to go? What are we going to do? Finally, the morning came. We walked out in the city, in the outside the campground, and we saw houses, peasants living, and we walked like groups, little groups, and they saw the women, look through the curtains. They wouldn't let us in. We wanted shelter or a drink of water or anything. Nobody would let us in. I don't blame them because we looked like a bunch of beggars. So we walked and we walked, and there were little groups walking here and there. Finally, we came into the city. That must have been maybe a kilometer out of the city. We came into the city and we saw groups walking from all 3 camps. Whoever survived came in there into that city, and they told us that there was a school, there is a building, and it's empty. It was a school before the war. The Germans made it into a field hospital, and there's lots of rooms. We ran in, and there were rooms, there were beds, and before we knew it, it was standing room only, because people heard, everybody heard about it, and they all came from all sides. And we stayed there, a few days. And we went down to the kitchen, to the basement, and we looked for food. And as soon as we got there was a huge cauldron with soup, but the soup was lukewarm. It was already 3 days old when the Germans left, but we didn't know it was soup, something to eat. And we ate it, everybody ate it, and it was already all sour, and everybody got sick. I don't want to tell you what happened next. It was horrible. It was horrible, because we all ate a lot of things, filled up our cans as much as we could. That was our liberation. Then we found out that there is the Russian army came in. So as they were marching in with their trucks, before we had a chance anything, we stood in the street and we held our hands. They looked at us, they thought we were beggar women. They threw down a piece of bread. And when I think of that, of myself looking like a beggar woman, holding out the hand for a piece of bread from a Russian soldier, that's what I did. That's what they did to us. They diminished, and they got rid of our dignity. What can I tell you? There was a Russian hospital, the same. They set up a field hospital. We went into peeled potatoes and beets. They took a lot of borscht, and they gave us food, delicious food. We didn't care what we were eating. We didn't know. They gave us food, and we ate. They paid us a few cents, and we went into a store. We bought a pair of shoes, and we bought a dress. And we took over our apartment. There were a lot of Germans who came to work in the factories, brought their families. They escaped from being for the front. They had a cushy job, but now they ran away, so there were a lot of empty apartments. So we took over an apartment, my brother, my sister, and I. My sister-in-law, my brother's wife, was sent to Bergen-Belsen that day when we got liberated. And she came back 6 months after she survived Bergen-Belsen. But while we lived in that apartment, the first, for a month or two, people were coming up. Then we lived like three people, 4 people in a room. There was not so many apartments to go around. So we lived like a group, the men in one room, the girls in another room. One day, my brother, this is just, I got to tell you that, my brother says, Kinderlich, my father used to always say, when he talked to us, Kinderlich. So my brother, Kinderlich, we survived, and we're going to start living just like Jews again. We're going to throw out this pot, and we throw out those dishes, and we're going to start eating meat separate and milk separate. We burst out laughing. We looked at him like, what is he talking about? We were not the same people, we were eating whatever they gave us. We didn't know what we were eating, just to eat. We were changed, completely changed. It was such a strange was after a few years, just eating whatever they gave us to survive. I'll never forget that. And we threw out the dishes, the few dishes, the pot that we had. And we bought a blue one for milk, and a red one for flesh. And we started to buy, somebody had brought in kosher meat, and we started to live on it. I remember the address. I had 2 aunts, my mother's 2 sisters that came to Toronto in 1920s, late 20s. I was in school with a nice handwriting. I was writing the addresses. I remember the address. I wrote to my aunt that we survived. 3 of us, my sister and my brother. They brought me over in 1947. I met a wonderful man. I married my husband. We were members at Clinton Park here for about 30 years. My husband passed away. I sold the house and we moved to Lawrence. And this is only by probably half. I could talk for hours.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for coming. We have a couple of minutes if there are any questions, and she has a few pictures that we can show. Anyone have any questions? Okay, well we'll have a couple of minutes at the end if anyone wants to ask informally. But here, let me show some pictures there. Put up these ones.
This was, we were in a VP camp in Germany, a displaced person. And this was the first wedding. Somebody got married, we made our wedding in the VP camp. On the top is my brother Yecheskel. We went to Menhu to have a Yiskari, like a Haskara that he made in Aidwalera, that my brother and his son. These children, it was in Stopnica in the ghetto. The Vice Yakovs were closed, the schools were closed officially. So the lady on top, her name was Rona Diamond. She was a Hebrew teacher in Krakow. She came home during the war, and she took all the children every day for 2 hours to her house to do something with them. And the two little girls, do you have a pointer? No. There were two little, my cousins, twins, with these little jumpers. The second row in the center, yeah, here, this one, and this one of my cousins, and this one is my cousin in the top. But none of those children survived, not one. So these are the twins, my sister-in-law that got married in 1940, and her sister. Yeah, this is my brother, and when he was engaged to her, my sister, my brother Avram, that died after 3 months in Berkutze. My sister who died on the way from Lodz to Stopnica. Okay, that's my father and my mother. And this picture, they were both 57 years old. They were younger than my youngest child is now. My father, my mother, my brother, the one that got married, that was 2 weeks before the war. That was outside the Sheverbrook is from them. That's my brother Yecheskel that was engaged to Ruth. And my father, my mother, my sister-in-law, my older sister, my 2 cousins. That's me, my brother, my sister, the one that remained in Lodz, and my sister Richard that was with me in the camp. She lived in New York, she passed away. She has 3 daughters. They are all Hasidic. The son-in-laws were Strabus, and the wives were Sheitas. They are Bobova, after all that. Okay, the top, that's all 8 children. That picture I found when my aunt and uncle were moving to Vegas. I helped them pack. I found this in an album that my parents sent over. That's me, the little girl with the bags, the youngest.
Okay, thank you again. Wish you. Close the assembly with some song, and members of we'll all join in.
Okay, we'll sing Ani Ma'amin and Atikva, and we'll conclude. Ani Ma'amin, Ani Ma'amin, Ani Ma'amin.
Mashiach, המשיח אני מאמין. אני מאמין, אני מאמין, אני מאמין. אמונה שלמה, עין עיני בביאת המשיח, בביאת המשיח אני מאמין. בביאת המשיח, בביאת המשיח אני מאמין. כל עוד הלבב בנימה, נפש שאורי הומייה, ולפחד מזרח ידימה, עין לציון סופיה. כל עוד תקוותנו, התקווה בשנות הבאים, להיות החופשי בארצנו, ארץ ציון ירושלים, להיות החופשי בארצנו, ארץ ציון ירושלים.
I say just one more word. Elie Wiesel said, if you talk to a witness, you become witness. So all of you are now witnesses when you listen to my story.